Hi everyone, this is Horned Horror. I know it has been a while, I just wanted to apologize for that. I have been lacking motivation, but now I am pushing forward and there's going to be a new video each week. So for this video specifically, I wanted to try something a little bit different. I know I still have to do the second part of the last story I read, and that will be up next week for sure. So this video was actually inspired by a YouTuber named Harshly Critical. Not too long ago, he made a video of himself reading his old cringy horror stories, and I felt like I really wanted to do that because I did like writing ever since I was in middle school, and I kind of wrote some pretty bad stuff. They're horrible. This story that I'm going to read to you guys is actually something I wrote when I was probably in middle school. It's called The Butcher, so I hope you guys enjoy. So this is a little description before the story. It says, Leon has just married the man of her dreams, a dark, mysterious STARGNER. I totally misspelled stranger. Wow, okay. A dark, mysterious stranger who captivates her heart, but he's hiding one deadly secret. I feel like I'm gonna be laughing throughout this, so I apologize. My darling, I can't wait to see the house you've bought for us. Leon Van Ertig sat in the soft carriage seat, glancing at her husband lovingly. He grinned slyly. I'm sorry. He grinned slyly, resting his head on his clenched fist and examining her with beautiful green eyes. Dearest Leon, he mused, I too can't wait for you to step foot in our new domain. Imagine, the cost was absolutely astonishing, but to show my immense love for you, I bought it. Leon blushed a bit under her white veil and shyly fixed her husband's tie. Oh, Victor, you are such a sweetheart, but really, I would have been fine anywhere as long as I'm with you. Victor placed his newly wedded wife's smooth hand on his cheek and kissed it with soft lips. I'm glad to hear that, Leon. You will make the rest of my days a living bliss. The carriage suddenly halted to a stop. Look, I believe we are already here. Leon peered her head out of the curtained windows of the ride and felt her smile suddenly tremble. It's so big and dark. A firm but gentle hand drew her back in. Do you not like it? Victor asked her, and his face seemed somewhat sad. I absolutely love it. I can't wait to go inside. And the bride, dressed in a splendid white gown, hastily opened the carriage doors and rushed out, forging a smile as she touched her home's cracking walls. Look at the immense structures, Victor. I can't wait to enter. Oh, do hurry up. The groom smiled handsomely and hurried out as well, waving the driver away as he took his wife in his arms. I picked out a room for us already. It has a splendid view, so you can observe the vast forest around us, my splendid child. Why would he call his own wife his child? That's so weird. What's wrong with me? Leon breathed heavily and watched with strange excitement as the large doors to her new home opened, a grim being dressed in a servant's attire appearing from the dark and bowing at the couple. Madame and Monsieur Van Ertig, please allow me to show you to your room. That won't be needed, Edna, Victor commented as he gently pushed his hesitant wife inside. My lovely would like to take a nice tour of the house before she's shut up in our bedroom. Isn't that right, Leon? The young bride nodded with a small laugh. Yes, I suppose. But may I ask where you would while I'm about? Oh my lord. There's so many grammatical errors. Oh, here and there. Don't worry, love. For sure we'll be dining together tonight. Victor kissed Leon with a smile and hurried out of the home, fixing a pair of gloves on as the door shut tight behind him. Leon followed the servant Edna as the old figure walked slowly down the halls like a walking corpse. Edna, the bride asked warily, as the servant opened a door where a small room was lit with a candle. "Yes, madame." "Since you will be working here for quite a while now, I would like to know a bit about you. See, Victor had asked me so sweetly to not go to the village close by, and I'm afraid I won't have any friends but you and whoever else is in the house." Edna nodded slowly, closing the door and resuming past Leon without a glance at her. "I will interact with neither you nor the master, only upon given instructions." Leon frowned slightly, patting down her white silk dress with a sigh. "Well, I suppose it is the household rules, is it not?" The somber servant didn't answer and continued the tour that had lasted over more than 20 minutes. Jesus Christ, how big is this place? It's like a freaking castle or something. Oh my gosh. Finally, she asked, "Would the madame like to see her room now?" "Oh, yes, please. I'm quite eager to get out of this dress before I ruin it." The beautiful young bride jogged up the stairs, almost falling as she stepped on the ends of her dress. As she carried the dress folds in her arm, Leon asked the quick servant, "Do you know what my husband is doing right now? He spoke something about a job after our wedding, but..." The servant merely nodded slightly and opened the right doors of the room. Hesitantly, the bride entered and gasped in surprise to see how beautiful the inside was. A large white bed was surrounding with a pearl-colored curtain, and an elaborate wardrobe along with an armchair and a table adorned the room. That sentence does not sound right. Or maybe it's just me. No, I'm pretty sure it doesn't sound right. "The master put a great importance to this room," Edna commented and bowed, leaving Leon with a quiet glance behind her. "Oh, Victor!" Leon blushed, thinking of how hard her darling must have worked to make this the most beautiful bedroom in the house. "I really must thank him tonight." "Oh!" She hurried to the wardrobe and found a whole row of clothes just for her. "My, how exquisite!" With a grin on her thin, pretty face, Leon reached out for a red dress that her husband was sure to find beautiful. Once she was finished changing and combing out her long brown hair, the young woman hurried out of the room and jumped gleefully down the old steps to prepare for the feast she was to have with her darling. Victor van Ertig took a sip of his wine, waving it ever so slightly in his hand as he smiled at his wife seated across from him. "I do hope you find the house to your liking, my love. Did you see our bedroom yet?" Leon dabbed her mouth politely with a handkerchief as she placed the fork in her right hand aside for a bit. "Victor, I was absolutely impressed with what you did. The house is beautiful and quite big as well. But do you like it?" "Yes, darling, I do." The handsome man took yet another sip from his glass cup and laid it aside, watching the red liquid with a strange look. "Victor, I've been wanting to ask you something." "Yes, dear, what is it?" Leon took a sip of wine as well and glanced at her Victor lovingly. "Dear heart, you remember what you told me about getting a job once we settled in?" "What of it?" the young man asked with a dashing smile fading from his lips. "Well, I was wondering if I may assist you in any way. Just what is it are you going to do?" Victor shifted in his seat and appeared to grow annoyed. "Here and there's nothing you can help me with, though." Leon was quiet as she glanced down with a low voice to appease her husband's growing anger. "If it's not too much to ask, may I go to the village close by where you said you grew up in? I do want to." She was suddenly thrown off as Victor slammed his fist on the table, loose strands of his comb-back hair falling over his forehead. "No! I said no!" What a D! Oh my gosh. The bride stared with a wide-eyed look at how vicious her husband had responded her. "Victor, please do try to calm down." "Shut up!" he roared, throwing his drink aside and bellowing with anger as it stained the white carpet. "Now look what you did! Get away from me! Just get away!" "Now look what you did? More like now look what you did, Victor!" Leon, with tears forming in her brown eyes, sat up quickly and rushed out at the doors from the dining room. She sobbed heavily and, once she reached her bedroom, closed the door shut and fell to the floor, tears streaming down her smooth face. She didn't want to make the love of her life angry, and yet she had. "I'm a hopeless bride," she sobbed and sniffed with a wipe of her eyes. "My poor Victor! He's married such a terrible wife." Ah, screw Victor, what the heck? Oh my gosh. Leon had fallen fast asleep when she heard a gentle tapping on her bedroom door. "Who is it?" she asked warily, and sighed as a familiar voice responded her. "It's Victor, love. Please open up. The key is under the vase next to you." The woman responded with a stern look and climbed off the bed with a quick brush of her hair. She then climbed on her bed again and watched with a beating heart as a familiar figure entered the room with a whole bouquet of roses at hand. "Leon, I'm terribly sorry for what I did. I'm such a horrible man to do such a disgusting thing to my own wife, especially when we are barely married. Please forgive me, my heart." For some reason, his words and face moved something deep inside Leon that she couldn't help but grin and kiss her husband's lips. My bad. "I forgive you," she whispered softly in his ear and took him in her arms. The next morning, Victor had gotten up early and ordered breakfast to be done for his wife, who had gotten up late and was now hurrying to get dressed. "I'm terribly sorry," she called to him from down below as she practically ran down the stairs in a beautiful beige dress. "Please forgive me, Victor. I'm such a clumsy woman." "And that's why I love you," he responded, tapping his delicate long finger on her nose. "Now breakfast is served, and I will join you in a bit. Just have to make a few calls for my job tonight." "Tonight? Don't you have to go in the morning or afternoon?" Victor shook his head while leading his wife to the dining hall. "I can only do this at night. Besides, I want to spend my mornings with you." "Shut up! Oh my gosh." He kissed her for a short while, then broke away and stepped down another hallway with his dark suit. "Go inside, dear. This will only take a moment." "All right, I'll wait for you in here." The curious woman meant to go in, but curiosity got the most of her as she watched her husband slide slyly into a door she had not been introduced to before in the tour Edna had given her. Holy crap, run on. "I don't want to intrude, but..." Leon, with a look around, followed after her husband and bent down on all fours. Like a freaking dog? She could have... Placing an ear on a slight crack from the door. She didn't have to get on all fours. She could have easily just stood on her 2 feet and... At first she heard nothing, but then a low rattling sound echoed in her ears as well as a low voice. "Dear? Yes, my beautiful. How are you? I plan to come tonight to your place and discuss the matter at hand." "Oh no. I'll just run over there and bring a few things with me. Is that all right?" "Yes. Yes, I will. Okay now, bye." He hung up and Leon quickly scrambled back to her feet, running to the dining room where she was supposed to be eating. As she shut the door tight behind her, she hopped into her seat and quickly stuffed the meal in her mouth. A door opened behind her and Victor entered, smiling that dashing grin of his. "Are you enjoying the breakfast, Leon?" "You are? I'm glad to hear that." She didn't even answer you, you idiot! The woman swallowed with a pained look and shyly glanced into her husband's eyes. Who did you call, darling?" "Oh, a close friend of mine who wishes to have something remodeled." He froze a bit. "Dear me, I didn't want to tell you my job." "But darling, it's fine. You shouldn't be embarrassed about what you do." Exactly, I mean, if your husband has a job, it doesn't matter what it is, you shouldn't be embarrassed. Like, yeah, you should, whatever, at least he's getting money. Victor was silent and he looked down at the white carpet. "I'm not embarrassed, just..." The sudden knocking of a door caused them both to look up and stare at the servant Edna as she walked in with a bow. Master, here is the mail you had asked me to bring you today. I don't know why I imagined Edna as Igor. I just don't know why. Ah, thank you. Now go on and continue your cleaning. Edna bowed and solemnly walked out, leaving the couple alone without another word. Victor looked at the paper he was handed with a sudden paralyzed look and shook his head in disbelief. How terrible. What is it? Leon asked, and watched with wide eyes as her husband handed her the paper, pointing to the bold letters that said, Butcher claims another victim, 34-year-old Susanna Barry. Susanna Barry? Get it? Because she's dead, and then her last name is Barry. Like they're burying her. Okay, sorry. The wife swallowed with a tight knot in her throat. It can't be close to here, is it? I hope not, but I'll check. The man scanned the papers thoroughly and with true earnestness in his eyes. No, thank the... Hold on. He bit his lip nervously and swallowed hard. It says that the victims are all in the village close to here. Dear heavens, Leon! Please don't go in there no matter what! I wasn't planning to, but now I know a good reason not to be around there thanks to this paper. Victor kissed his wife's cheek eagerly. That's a good girl. I promise that if you stay in here where I can protect you, no harm will come to you, and I swear it. You're such a good husband, darling, so kind and caring. Smooth lips kissed her own, and a cold hand caressed her jaw. Do as I say, and no harm will come to you. That is my promise. Leon's so dumb! If I were her, I would have left the guy. Like, even... Oh my gosh. Does that not sound eerie? Do as I say, and no harm will come to you? That's freaking weird. 2 days had now passed and Victor had done his jobs well, though every time he came back he seemed to always hurt himself, for there would be drops of blood on his suits, and the smell of iron would fill the air. Are you hurt? Would you like me to bathe your wound? Leon would ask eagerly, as her husband would shake his head slightly with a pained look. No, I'm ashamed to say this, but I'm not experienced at all. I always end up hurting myself when fixing my client's rooftop or fixing a car. I'm just not put up for it. I believe in you, and no matter what, I know you can do it. Those words seemed to bring light to Victor's pale face, and he grinned in response. Thank you, dear. I'll put that to mind when I do my next job. Another night passed, and Leon would read more papers of this butcher killer, slaying more women in an even more horrifying manner than the victim before. How terrifying! What if Victor gets hurt out there? The sudden thought sent an alarm down her spine. What if Victor does get hurt out there? She jumped out of bed and grabbed her robe, thinking of how angry Victor would be when he found out she had gone to the village, but she would say it was to make sure he was safe. Then maybe he won't be as mad, Leon told herself, as she slipped on some slippers and quietly headed outside her bedroom. The hall was dark, and she was sure the servants in the house, including Edna, were asleep at the time of night. Like a cat, she quietly slid down the stairs and tiptoed to the front door, slowly opening it as it creaked slightly. Without another look back, she closed the doors tight and jumped in joy at how beautiful it was to smell the earth and wind again, after being shut in the house for a while now. I just hope my darling Victor won't get mad at me, she whimpered and hurried down the grassy floor. You know he's gonna get mad at you, Leon. Shut up. The village was a bit far off, and it took Leon a while to get to there. Fortunately, she made it, and was even more fortunate to find people still roaming around with lighted lamps around the small stores. As she passed by individuals, they stared at her sort of oddly, and she began to wonder what was wrong with her, when a young man of 19 years old blocked her way. Excuse me, ma'am. May I ask what is your intention of being here? Leon was quite perturbed by this and responded in a haughty tone. I'm looking for my husband! Husband, I've seen no one cross my path for a long while now. But I'm Miss Van Ertig. My husband is working for some people here, and he was even born here himself. Heh, right. Where do you live, ma'am? My, how rude! How is that rude, asking where you live? But if you care to know, I live in a big house not so far from here. Yeah, that's really descriptive. Okay. The boy rolled his eyes and scoffed with a grin. That house has been empty for years and no one is even allowed to live there. How does he know exactly what she's talking about? There might be a lot of big houses. Whatever. My husband just bought that house for our wedding. Now get out of my way! The boy blocked her way and tried not to be rough. Easy now, ma'am. I believe you when I see your name on the town's occupant list. If your husband really did grow up here, he'll know that the house you supposedly live in is property of this town, and we'll know he has to sign his name on our list. Alright then, I'm sure Victor did sign our names, and I'll prove you wrong. We'll see about that. The boy led her down the dusty path and into an old building overhead. When they entered, a man behind the counter nodded to the boy, who said, I need to see the list for a bit, thank you. The man reached down below him and pulled out a heavy load of papers, a whole list of names written out in blank ink. What's your name again, ma'am? The boy asked with a sneer, and she responded with a hesitant look to her face. It's Van Ertig. The boy flipped through the pages and followed down a list of names with his finger. Leon breathed heavily, the sweat to her brow forming in large drops. Jesus. Alright, ma'am. See, I told you it's not here. The woman pushed the boy aside and scanned the page with a bewildered look to her eyes. Why? Why isn't it here? He said he bought it and grew up in this town. She looked up at the old man behind the counter with a scared look in her eye. My husband's name is Victor Van Ertig. He said he grew up here. There must be a mistake. Sorry, lady. The boy pushed her out of the building. If you're not registered here, we won't let you walk our town. Stupid. For all we know, you might be the butcher, or maybe even your husband. For all we know, you might be the butcher or maybe even your husband. For all we know, you may be your husband. Yeah, because Leon looks like a man. Oh gosh, okay. Stop! Leon yelled with tears in her eyes and rushed back to where she came from, her slippers falling off and scratches forming on her legs. It's a mistake! Where are the scratches coming from? If they're just forming on her legs. I should have been more descriptive in that part, whatever. She yelled to no one in particular and sobbed her way back home. The dark house appeared before her, and with it a light growing intensely from inside. Can Victor be inside already? She tried to control the strange fear growing in her heart as she took small steps towards her fate. As she entered the room, a light flew on, and there stood Victor with a strange smile on his face. Darling, he asked and stretched out his bloody hands towards her. Come here, my love! Leon screamed and rushed past him. Why did she run past him? She could have run out the door. What? Okay, as she entered the room, a light flew on, and there stood Victor with a strange smile on his face. Why did she run past him? Okay. Leon screamed and rushed past him, flying up the stairs that led to her room. Victor! She sobbed heavily in horror. How could you? With all her strength, she locked the door tight behind her and fell back, crawling on her knees to hide in the corner. She literally cornered herself. She literally could have ran out the door, straight to the village, explained everything to them. Oh gosh, Leon, come on. Leon, an angry voice belonging to her husband echoed in her eyes. An angry voice belonging to her husband echoed in her eyes. In her eyes, people, not her ears. "Open the door!" He pounded heavily with his foot and suddenly took out a knife he had gotten from the attic where all the other weapons he used for his victims rested. "Open the door!" Victor thrust his knife into the door, tearing chunks off from it. At one point, he called Edna to go to the village and make up a story of why Leon had gone there. Jeez, Edna was in on it! I don't remember. Oh my gosh. The poor bride shook in terror as another chunk flew off the wall. Another chunk flew off the wall? Don't you mean the door? Oh my gosh. The poor bride shook in terror as another chunk flew off the wall. "Please, Victor! Please!" "I'm sorry, darling," a somewhat calm voice answered as a red hand reached out throughout the hole in the door and opened it from the inside. It opened slowly, and Leon cried out in horror as her husband walked towards her with a knife in his hand. "Really I am, darling, but it's not my fault that you've fallen for a butcher." What I don't understand is okay, so there was a key supposedly outside in the vase, and Leon locked the door. Why didn't he just grab the key from the vase and use it to open the door instead of freaking making a hole? Oh my gosh, this was horrible. The only part that I liked about my stories back then was that I was descriptive. And I mean, I know I wasn't like the perfect writer, and this is obviously the cringiest thing I've ever done, but at least I was a little descriptive. I wasn't like, he said, she said, they did this, then they did that. But yeah, overall, I could have done so much better. I think if I rewrite this now, I'd do like a much better job, make it more suspenseful, make it not so obvious that the husband was the killer. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm sorry for laughing throughout the whole thing. It's just really awkward for me, and I thought the majority of the story was stupid. I remember reading this to my sister, who's probably gonna watch this video, and I remember her telling my mom about this story. I don't know if she remembers, but she did. And I was just so mad. And I felt so proud of this story. It's so stupid. So yeah, I hope you guys like this video and have a great day. Thanks for watching.